Hi everyone, welcome to On The Record, brought to you by Woolworths as we take a sneak peek at the Round 9 edition of the AFL Record, Australia's #1 selling sports weekly. And joining me to discuss it is our AFL media friend and colleague, Nick Bowen. Nick, welcome.
Thank you, Ash.
Good to have you here. Now, our feature story this week is on the premiership window. We've gone through and looked at the prospects of every team in the competition. You're our resident list manager. You don't quite have the suntan of a few other high-profile list managers out there.
Working on it.
But let's start by having a look at the Navy Blues of Carlton. Nick, my question for you is, are they winning too many games to actually get this list management strategy right to get their premiership window open when they need it to be?
It's an interesting one, isn't it, Ash? I mean, that obviously costs them, say, an earlier draft pick. I think at this stage they're 11th on the ladder. That'd get them pick 8. Now, they probably want to pick further down, say, top 5. I think they'll probably get that with a few teams, say, Collingwood, Richmond, St Kilda passing them. But yeah, they've still got plenty of work to do. They still need to get extra picks in. I think the interesting one will be whether they try and create, say, an extra top 20 pick like Hawthorn and St Kilda have done in the past.
Now, we're very bullish in the story on Fremantle, saying the premiership window could open again very soon. What do you think?
Not for mine, Ash. I think that they've still got some major holes to cover. Likely Pavs last season, they still haven't really replaced Luke McFarlane in defence, and I think you'd imagine Sandy's only really got one more year in him. Now, Collingwood, Nick, can they win their next premiership with Travis Cloke in the side? Look, I think they can, Ash, but there's got to be a lot of work done on Trav's form and his confidence, really, doesn't it? I think that he's been out of the team since round 4, which you just wouldn't have expected before the season started. So.
Yeah, I don't agree with you on that one. I think he's showing all the signs of a player who needs to change of scenery, and I don't know how they do the deal. It's complicated with the contract, but if they can get him out of there, I reckon that might actually speed up that premiership window.
Big call. I think they'd have to get a really compelling deal to want to do that.
All right, and the other team we want to look at quickly is the Western Bulldogs. Are all the elements in place for a premiership run?
Look, I reckon they could do it, Ash. Everything going right this year, but I think they're probably still short of ruckman and probably another key defender for mine. But, Jesus, they're a very exciting team. So we've gone through every team in the record this week and looked for and nominated when their premiership window is. So make sure you get the record this week. And also our other feature story is a look at the rising superstar. Good player, isn't he, Nick? Tom Lynch of the Gold Coast Suns. Yes, he's a star. I think your premiership window becomes that little bit closer if you've got him in your team, Ash.
He's a good footballer. All right, now turning to Match Centre, and we're having a look at Friday night's big game at the MCG between the Hawks and the Sydney Swans. Nick, and we've nominated, it's a very big week for Ted Richards.
Yeah, and it is, Ash. I think he's had a really slow start to the year. Hawthorn present a really unique challenge as well, don't they, I think, for defenders. They've got Jack Gunston, who can play tall but does a lot of running, and then they've probably got the resting ruckman in Ben McAvoy and John Segler. So I fear more for the Swans' small defenders with Cyril, Paul Puopolo and Luke Breust.
And putting a list manager's hat on quickly, they need some reinforcements down there at the end of the season, don't they, tall defenders, the Swans?
They do, Ash. It's likely Ted Richards last season, you'd think. I think he's 33, showing signs of a bit of age. So there's been talk of Michael Hurley. I don't think that one will happen, but you've got guys like Tom McDonald and you know, in the mix, and even Mitch Brown from West Coast, who's a free agent.
Right. And then finally, for the back half of the record this week, we are having a look at the North Melbourne Carlton game on Saturday night at Etihad Stadium. You know a bit about North, Nick?
Yes.
Tell me about Jared Waite and what he has brought to North Melbourne.
Well, at 33, Ash, he's playing the best footy of his career, isn't he? He's been remarkable. I think that everyone knew he could play, but I don't think he's produced anywhere near as consistently throughout his career. And the thing that's really taken me has been his defensive pressure. I think that we all knew he was a really offensive player, mark, goal, but I just didn't see him being the tackler that he's become at North. And before you go, to put you on the spot, can North win the premiership this year? Look, they can, Ash, but I think that they've obviously had the ideal platform where they start. They've got a very tough draw in the second half of the season. I think they need to finish in the top 2 to give themselves a home preliminary final to do it. So look for that story in the back half of the AFL Record, and look for Nick Bowen's comments all through the year on AFL.com.au, analysing pretty much any player move going down. Nick's all over it. So thanks for joining us, Nick. Now let's have a look at the nominations for the Round 8 Mark of the Week, brought to you by Woolworths.
Kick it to a spot that gives the Tools a chance to run and jump at it. He does just that to Lynch, who rises and takes a strong mark in the middle of the pack.
Mooney Vince in his 50th game for the club kicks out. Oh, terrific mark. Easton Wood, what a ripper. High ball in the Waite direction. Mason Wood, brilliant mark, drifting in from the side.
And don't forget, you can have your vote by visiting afl.com.au, and for what it's worth, I'll be voting for Easton Wood from the Western Bulldogs. And now to my tips for round 9. Only got 5 last week, a bit disappointed with that, so a couple of teams let me down. The big one Friday night, I've gone for Hawthorn to get a narrow win over the Sydney Swans. It's going to be a very emotional night there, I think, at the MCG with the following the news about Jared Roughead. I think that West Coast road woes will come to an end. They'll get the win at Adelaide Oval in the twilight game Saturday against Port Adelaide, and a big game for GWS on Sunday. I think they can get over the injury-depleted Western Bulldogs at Spotless Stadium. That's it for this week's edition of On The Record. Don't forget, when you go to the footy this weekend, pick up your copy of the AFL Record. $5. Look for the kids in the green caps and the green jackets, and we look forward to talking to you once again next week. Thanks for watching.